UFC Fight Night, Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. A lot of interesting things happened today in the main card, so that's what we're going to stick with. Before we go ahead and get into the discussion, I would just appreciate it if you guys, leave a like, consider subscribing to this channel, and leaving a comment under this video. And let's go ahead and get right into things. All right, first let's start off with Johnny Walker versus Volkan Oezdemir. Look, I did not expect Johnny Walker to lose this fight. In my opinion, I thought that he was going to edge out a win, and I did not expect him to get knocked out the way that he did. Which, side note, we need to study Johnny Walker's chin, because each and every single time he gets knocked out, and he has been put away a couple times in the UFC already, he goes stiff. And not like a regular type of knockout stiffness. He goes out like scary type of stiff, like he's not gonna wake up. But anyways, another side note, both these guys have only won like 4 out of their last 10 fights, right? So I wasn't expecting a crazy, super crazy high level matchup in the light heavyweight division. But yeah, look, both these guys ranking are definitely getting called into question right now. I think that they're pretty much easy pickings for a lot of the fighters that are coming up in the light heavyweight division. I think that Carlos Oberg, maybe even someone like Khalil Roundtree, or even Dominic Reyes could come for their ranking. That's what I see. I pretty much see Johnny Walker as easy pickings, especially for someone like Carlos Oberg or Dominic Reyes who are looking to come up in the division, and if they want maybe a potentially easy win, I think Johnny Walker might be it. For Volkan Oezdemir, he's 34 years old. Like I said, he's won 4 out of his last 10 fights. Same situation with him. I think that there's a lot of fighters that are below the ranking that are making some pretty crazy moves in their division that could probably look at someone like Volkan Oezdemir like easy pickings as well. So I think that both of these guys are pretty much going to get looked at in the near future, to maybe one of these lower ranked fighters to get a win over. All right, of course, the second fight in the main card was Magomedov versus Antonio Trocoli, and I'm just going to be completely honest with this one, ladies and gentlemen. The fight did not impress me at all. Neither fighter had a good performance in this fight. Antonio Trocoli showed up to this match not wanting to fight at all. He wasn't defending at all. He wasn't looking to advance any positions at all. He had Magomedov in the fence multiple times, like a good 4 or 5 times, and did not look to go for the takedown, not even once. Magomedov was literally on 1 foot, and Antonio Trocoli just refused to attack his base. I think if he would have attacked his base, he could have taken him down a couple of times, and that's just my opinion, of course. But look, I know that Magomedov got performance of the night and he knocked out Trocoli, but I just don't think it was that good of a performance, right? And there's a whole lot of people out there that are pretty much agreeing with that sentiment as well. Magomedov has had rumors already about his next opponent being Bo Nickal, and in my opinion, I feel like Bo Nickal is probably going to do some easy work against Magomedov, right? And of course, there's people criticizing Bo Nickal right now because he pretty much called out Magomedov and said that, oh, you're just picking on guys that don't know how to wrestle. Like, come on, guys, this is freaking MMA. If you guys want to watch purely striking, go watch a kickboxing match or watch Muay Thai or watch boxing. But at the end of the day, this is freaking MMA. And look, in my opinion, I feel like I said, Bo Nickal does easy work against Magomedov. I think it'd be great for his career to take away Shara Bullet's in my opinion. He looked good at 13-1. I still think that he has a huge fan base, and the UFC could definitely still do a lot with Magomedov, as a big name, because he is a huge draw for the other side of the world. He can't even fight in the US anyways, because I heard that since he has only 1 eye, and he's not gonna freaking pass any examinations in the US anyways. So I think that if the UFC pretty much just use him as like a journeyman whenever they have fights on the other side of the world, I still think that he has a pretty decent job in front of him, right? But like I said, I just don't think that it was a good performance from him tonight. And if he ends up fighting Bo Nickal, I think Bo Nickal's gonna knock him out or pretty much submit him within the first round. And the next fight of the night was Kevin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. And let me just say, man, what a disappointing freaking day it must be for Daniel Rodriguez. He did all the right freaking things. He cut weight, the weight that was agreed upon, and he still managed to lose the fight. I mean, Kevin Gastelum, he did his thing. He did what he was supposed to do. Daniel Rodriguez accepted the 185-pound bout, but you just can't help but to feel bad for Daniel Rodriguez, because he did each and every single thing that was agreed upon by contract. And of course, Kevin Gastelum shows up fat as fuck and, you know, manages to win the fight. I think that Daniel Rodriguez was winning the fights in terms of the striking, but of course, you know, this is an MMA match. At the end of the day, those takedowns that Kevin Gastelum was, you know, successfully, you know, doing against Daniel Rodriguez, I think edged him out the win. In my opinion, I feel like this was a pretty damn good fight to witness. Like I said, unfortunately, it was at 185. Imagine if Kevin Gastelum actually decided to go on a diet and go about things the right way. You know, this fight probably could have had a different outcome, but like I said, a fun fight to witness, great fight to look at. Definitely deserved its placement in the main card. But yeah, Kevin Gastelum, he said he wants to be now a company guy, you know, and he just wants to take up fights for the UFC, and I'm pretty excited to see who they throw at him, and you know, whether or not Kevin Gastelum's gonna stay in the middleweight division, we'll see. And the next fight that was the co-main event actually was Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. Both these guys, they were beefing coming into this fight. And honestly, look, I thought that Sergey Pavlovich was gonna come into this fight and probably put away Alexander Volkov, because even Alexander Volkov said that, you know, Sergey Pavlovich has always been a very, you know, hard guy to spar against back when they were like homies or whatever. But yeah, Alexander Volkov, he fought a very, very smart fight, let me just say, because Sergey Pavlovich, the power that he has on his hands is just absolutely incredible. Of course, we know that Sergey Pavlovich has a record of having multiple round one knockouts, right? And yeah, look, Alexander Volkov, he did his thing. You know, he controlled the distance. He was in there pretty much landing smart strikes and strikes that were pretty much having a high percentage chance of landing. And by the end of the fight, we saw Sergey Pavlovich's face that was absolutely freaking destroyed. This was a great win for Alexander Volkov. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like the next person for him is probably going to be Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane hasn't beat a guy since, I think, September, when he last fought Spivak. And I think that Alexander Volkov versus Cyril Gane could be a very interesting matchup, given the fact that, you know, both these guys like to strike. I know Alexander Volkov has done some wrestling, and Cyril Gane, you know, he said that he's made some major improvements to his MMA game. And I think that, you know, Alexander Volkov would be the perfect candidate to see whether or not he's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and now for the main event, which was, of course, Robert Whittaker and Aliskerov. And I'm just going to be completely honest, I am not at all surprised with what happened in this fight. I put out a short a couple of days ago, pretty much asking each and every single one of y'all whether or not Aliskerov had a chance of being Robert Whittaker. And there was a lot of people who pretty much seemed to think that Aliskerov was going to put out Robert Whittaker by the second round. And I was like, man, I really don't know about all that. I don't know about all that, because Robert Whittaker prepared for a way tougher matchup, which was Khamzat Chimaev, but of course we know that he pulled out. So I know that Robert Whittaker having a full freaking camp preparing for a tougher matchup was going to come into this fight in tip-top shape. And Robert Whittaker pretty much did his thing. You know, he beat Aliskerov in a pretty clear fashion, pretty much just showing the fans that there is levels to this, and showing the difference between a championship level fighter and a fighter who is just good enough to be ranked, right? And there's already talks about Robert Whittaker potentially fighting Sean Strickland. In my opinion, I don't think that fight goes down, because the number one contender fight was between, you know, Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. And of course, we know that Sean Strickland did his thing. He got a very dominant win against Paulo Costa. And I think that Sean Strickland waits around until he gets that opportunity to fight either Dricus or Israel Adesanya, whoever's holding the belt. If Dricus wins, that would be a very interesting fight, because of course a lot of people out there seem to believe that Sean Strickland won the first time around. And if he beats Israel Adesanya, it would be a great, you know, thing for Adesanya as well, because, you know, of course we know that Sean Strickland managed to beat him once, you know, so both rematches would be very, very interesting. For Robert Whittaker, I think that if there's any other fight for him to fight in the middleweight division, it's probably going to be against Imavov, which I think is a pretty damn good fight. Robert Whittaker versus Imavov is a 10 out of 10 fight. I don't care what anybody says. You know, if you know, you know. Imavov has, you know, done pretty damn well in his last couple of fights. Of course, he got that fluke of a win against cannoneer, but you know, I still think that he is good enough to fight against some of the best in the middleweight division. And you know, Robert Whittaker could pretty much do a fraud check against Imavov if he manages to do the same thing that he did against Aliskerov. But that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree, whether you praise me or whether you just drag my name through the mud. I can't wait to read it all. As always, it's a pleasure. Peace out and have a good one.